Okay, so we're going to pick up with King Saul. And if you remember last week, we started on King Saul, how the people wanted a king, and God told Samuel, okay, we'll give him a king, but you're going to warn them that this king is going to do this, and they're like, give us a king anyway, even though they knew how it was going to turn out. And they wanted to be like everybody else around them, despite God not wanting them to be like everybody else around them. He wanted them to be separate. He wanted them to be separate from those evil Canaanite tribes because of the things that they would do. So I kind of backed up just a few verses so we can kind of come in and y'all can pick up where we left off last week. Why is that doing that? It don't even look like that on my screen. That's weird.
There you go.
Oh.
Go back. The other button.
Okay. I wanted it bigger. I wanted it to be the whole screen. Okay, so as for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And then he waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not... Oh, no. I'm in the wrong place. I'm in 10. Okay, so this is when they're going to get their king. Therefore they inquired of the Lord further, has the man come here yet? And the Lord answered, there he is, hidden among the equipment. So if you remember, Saul, head and shoulders tall above every other people. He looked like a king, and yet he's the one hiding. And this is kind of not what we expect. We expect, somebody that's like that, kind of peacock around a little bit. He didn't do that. He was hiding at this moment. So they ran and brought him from there, and when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. And Samuel said to all the people, do you see him whom the Lord has chosen, that there is no one like him among all people? So all the people shouted and said, long live the king. Then Samuel explained to the people the behavior of royalty and wrote it in a book and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. And Saul also went up to Gibeah, and the valiant men went with him, whose hearts God had touched. But some rebels said, how can this man save us? So they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. And we talked a little bit about this at the end of last Sunday. What can a human king ever do to compare with a loving, merciful, long-suffering God? Has God not been long-suffering with his people? Is he not long-suffering with us today?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. Because we're just as stubborn. We think that we're going to be different, or we would be different if we were in these situations. Have you ever thought about it this way? Well, if I was the one in the garden, I wouldn't have eaten from the tree. And then when you really get to thinking about it, you're like, yeah, I probably would have. I would have, and if it wasn't that, I would have messed up some other way, because we're not perfect. I'm sorry, y'all. I promise I'm not still sick. I just got the drainage thing. And I'm going to probably sneeze and snarf up here. I don't know how I'm going to do tonight. I'm sorry, people out there on YouTube. Sorry. I just feel it like dripping in the back of my throat. Okay, so now we're going to skip. I'm sorry. And Saul's going to be made king. There's going to be some back and forth between the Philistines. And so now we're coming back in on Saul again. And the reason we're picking up here is because this is where he's going to mess up. All right, so he's king for a little bit. They have some battles. And now we're coming back in. And it says, as for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. Then he waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel. So Samuel told him, he was like, wait here, do this, da-da-da. He gave him specific directions. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people scattered from him. So what's going on here is, Saul's here, he's waiting on Samuel to come. And the people are with him, and it's supposed to be 7 days, and Samuel's a little bit late. And Saul is kind of panicking at the moment because the people are getting restless. They don't want to stay with him where he's at. And this is what he's fixing to do. So pay attention. So Saul said, bring a burnt offering and peace offering here to me. And he offered the burnt offering. That wasn't his place. He was the king. Kings don't offer the burnt offering. This was the place of Samuel. Samuel had told him to come here and wait. He was the one that was supposed to come and offer the offerings. And now Saul thinks, because he's king, that I guess he can step into that position. I don't have to wait on Samuel. I'm going to do it. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but it is when it comes to God. Because, again, he's the king. What is Samuel? He's the priest. All right? Now, it happened, of course it's going to happen, as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering, that Samuel come. Really? Missed it by that much. But do you think that's by God's design? You think this was a test? Yeah. Does Satan do that sometimes to us? How many of y'all, now be honest, are patient? For those in YouTube world, there's no hands going up. I'm not patient either. Y'all should ride with me. I'm serious. I get behind slow cars. I'm like, why is this person on the road? The kids laugh at me. I'm like, the pedal's on the right, people. Pedal's on the right. It's that one over there.
We did that way on the golf course Friday. They was from my front of us. We weighed in and we weighed. So let's skip 2 holes. So we did.
I know. I come the back way through Glendale, and I come up to the roundabout, and I'm like, it ain't a stop sign. It's yield. You don't have to stop. It's yield. And everybody wants to stop. Oh. So, I'm not patient either. This is just him being human. And in our humanity, sometimes we can't go on what we feel. We've got to go on what we know. And Saul should have done that. I know it's not my place, so I'm not going to do it. No matter how I feel, no matter how antsy I'm getting, but he did it anyway. So Samuel came, and Samuel went out to meet him that he might greet him. Saul went out to meet him that he might greet him. And Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul said, "When I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together at Michmash, then I said, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt," you get that? "I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering." Let me take you back to the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve there. Ooh, that fruit looks good to eat. My stomach's hungry. Oh, it's going to make me smart too. I feel compelled to eat this fruit. You get it? It's the same sin. It's putting what you think over what God says. Is that not sin? We can't put our emotions, we can't put our feelings, we can't put our opinions over God's word because he is sovereign. All right? Let me keep going. And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever." It comes with obedience. If he would have been obedient, it would have been his line that would have been ruling over Israel forever. We know that's not going to happen. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart. And the Lord has commanded him to be commander over his people because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. Not good. Not good. Now, as a king, you have all this power. You have all these people under you. What do you think that's going to make him feel like? He's still king in name, but he knows there's going to come another one. And he knows that he's not going to have that dynasty behind him. Because if you think about it, this is a patriarchal society. It's been a patriarchal society ever since Abraham. Father to son, and now he knows he's not going to have anything to pass on. You think that would make somebody a little bit bitter? It's going to make him bitter. We're going to see glimpses of that. Then Samuel arose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. And Saul numbered the people present with him about 600 men. Now we're going to skip a little bit further. So this is in 13. We're going to kind of jump ahead a little bit to 15. And Samuel also said to Saul, now, he should listen by now, because has Samuel said anything false yet? Remember the verses when we were talking about Samuel? He can nail his words to the wall. They won't fall to the ground. All right? The Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore heed the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came up from Egypt. Amalek, Amalekites. That's where those two come together. So what happened was, when they come out of Egypt, some of the weaker, the elderly, are at the back of the line. That spoils for the Amalekites. They're easy pickings, okay? So they come in and they get the people at the last of the line. They want to, rob them, all of that stuff. Well, God's remembering it even now of how they done. They should have done like a wolf pack. Have y'all ever studied wolf packs? They don't let the like the old or the sick or the weak be at the end of the line. They put them in the middle. So they have the strong ones out front and the strong ones in the back to protect them. All right. It says, now go attack Amalek and utterly destroy, what's that word? All that they have, and do not spare them. This is similar to where he told when Joshua was going into the promised land to wipe them out. There is a reason behind it. All right, now they probably don't understand it all, because they just know that these are the people who attacked when they come out of Egypt. It says, but kill both man and woman, infant and nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey. Now, that sounds harsh. We're going to kill infants. We're going to kill babies. But there's a reason that God told him to do that. I'm going to get there. I don't want you to get hung up on it, because I know that just sounds like, oh my goodness, I can't believe God said that, but I'm getting there. So Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. It's just of Judah. That's a big number. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and lay in wait in the valley. Then Saul said to the Kenites, go, depart, get down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. So the Amalekites wasn't along. They had the Kenites with them. Israel sends a warning, hey, Kenites, we have no beef with you. God wants to destroy these people. This is your chance to get out. All right? So they are going to leave. For you showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul attacked the Amalekites from Havilah all the way to Shur, which is east of Egypt. Now this is the big part that I want you to pay attention to. He also took Agag. I want you to remember that name. He took Agag, king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Was he supposed to do that? That said all, didn't it? He was supposed to destroy him. Now back then, lots of times when a king would come in and conquer another kingdom, they did take their king as prize. They would parade them around. It's going to sound awful. Lots of times they would hang their heads or their bodies on the city gates, because that was their war prize. Okay? We're going to see that a little bit later on as well when we get on into Samuel. This is going to happen again. So he took King Agag, but this time Agag is still alive. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lamb, all that was good, and were unwilling to utterly destroy them. They should have learned. Not only did they keep the king alive, they're going to keep all the best of the livestock and such like that. But with everything despised and worthless that they utterly destroyed. It's easy to destroy the things that don't mean nothing, right? That have no value. You just destroy it. You don't think anything of it. It says, now the word of the Lord came to Samuel. You know, Samuel's probably disheartened by now. Like, these people wanted a king. I give them a king. I warn them about it. And I tell them to do God's will. And here he is not listening again. I greatly regret that I have set up Saul as king, for he has turned back from following me. He has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried out to the Lord all night. He's not even the one that did wrong. And he's so grieved that he cried out to the Lord all night. So when Samuel rose early in the morning to meet Saul, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul went to Carmel. And indeed, he set up a monument for who? Monuments meant something, right? Bad move. And he has gone around, passed by, and gone down to Gilgal. He wanted to be remembered for what he had done. But he didn't follow through with what he was supposed to do. Not completely. Then Samuel went to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And you know he knows different. But Samuel said, What is this? The bleating of sheep in my ears and the lowing of oxen which I hear. Like, hey, I hear the sheep and oxen. No, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God. And the rest we have utterly destroyed. You get that? He's blame shifting. Let me take you back to the Garden of Eden. What happened?
She did.
Right? Right? She did it. And then Eve blamed it on the serpent, right? We blame shift. Do we blame shift today?
No.
Who do we blame? Because we don't like correction. Being human, we don't like correction. You go back to the account of Cain and Abel. You know, we get and we remember that Cain killed Abel, but lots of times we don't remember that God gave him a chance to learn from his mistake, go back and get the proper sacrifice and come back. He wasn't teachable. He wasn't humble enough to learn. Right here, does this look like Saul's humble enough to learn? Part of being teachable is to learn to take correction. Nobody, I don't care who you are, likes to know or hear that you're wrong. But is it necessary? Think about your children. If you never told your children they did wrong, how do you think they would turn out when they grew up?
Not today's society.
Right? You've got to say, hey, this is the wrong way. And then you got to train them to do the right thing. Do you have to teach a child to lie?
No.
No, but you have to train them not to. That's just part of being our fallen human state. So then Samuel said to Saul, Be quiet and listen. And I will tell you what the Lord has said to me last night, and when he said to him, Speak on. So Samuel said, When you were little in your own eyes. When he was little in his own eyes was when he was hiding. He didn't think of himself as a king. God had appointed him king, but even though he was head and shoulders over the rest, you remember, he was hiding. He said, When you were little in your own eyes, were you not the head of the tribes of Israel? And did not the Lord anoint you over king of Israel when he was humble? Do you want a humble king? Or do you want a showboat king that's just willing to do what he wants? Now the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of the Lord? This reminds me of when they went to Ai. You remember when they went to Ai, they had utterly destroyed Jericho. They had, they were conquering. They go into Ai, and what happens? one of the men take some of the spoils. Wasn't supposed to happen. That should have been a lesson right there. Same thing here. It says, Saul said to Samuel, but I have obeyed the voice of the Lord. Does this not sound like your child?
Yeah.
But go clean your room. But I did clean my room. Well, there's stuff still under your bed. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And gone on a mission on which the Lord has sent me, and brought back Agag, king of Amalek. I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. He wanted Samuel to be proud of him for keeping Agag alive. So this is where we're going to swap. And we're going to go to the book of Esther. And y'all are thinking, why in the world are we going to the book of Esther? Now, this starts in Esther 3:1. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, see that word? Agagite. All right, stay with me. So this is an Agagite. And advanced him and set his seat above all the princes who were with him. And all the king's servants who were within the king's gate bowed and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him, but Mordecai would not bow or pay homage. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all of the provinces of your kingdom. He's talking about the Jews right here. They're dispersed right now. Their laws are different from all other people, and they did not keep the king's law. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. What he's saying, these people, they don't listen to you. They're not like us. They need to be gone. If it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed. Now, one of the things about the Medes, the Persians, once they decreed a law, it could not be changed at all. That was just it. So if the king goes through and he says these people are going to be, this would be what we would consider genocide today. We're going to annihilate these people. It cannot be changed. All right. It says, if you let this decree happen, I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work and to bring it into the king's treasuries. He's willing to pay his own money to kill these people. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money and the people are given to you to do with them as seems good to you. What they didn't realize back in Saul's time was the reason that God wanted the Amalekites wiped out was because if they were wiped out, Haman wouldn't exist. If Haman didn't exist, there would have been no proclamation to kill all the Jews. It was that simple. See, God sees the whole timeline. So when he tells them to go in and conquer and take out all these people, he's got a reason for it. Some of them survived because here we have an Agagite. If Saul would have just done his job, this would have never happened. Okay? So again, God is sovereign. He sees things we can't see, and he expects us to trust him and be obedient. That's all God wanted. Now, to be, let's talk about David, a man after God's own heart. How do you do that? Do you trust him when you don't understand? Clearly they didn't understand because they didn't have the whole picture. And now, if we read the Bible, what we have today, we can see more of the picture. I'm sure it's still not the whole picture, but we have a bigger picture than what they did then. And that should show us, hey, no matter what God says, yeah, we should do what he says because he knows more than we do. He knows what's going to happen next. So now we're going to go back to 1 Samuel. But the people took plunder of the sheep and the oxen and the best of the things which should have been utterly destroyed and sacrificed to the Lord your God in Gilgal. So Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than to sacrifice. What does Jesus say in the New Testament? If you love me,
Okay, my commandment.
obey my commandments, and to heed then the fat of rams. But the people took. Oops, I repeated that one, didn't I? For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Y'all realize what that means? Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. If you rebel against God, that's just as bad as doing witchcraft. What's witchcraft? That's the occult. That's demonic, satanic. It's just as bad as doing that if you rebel against the Lord. If you rebel against the Lord, are you His? We were going over a lesson. It's been years ago now. You're either in two quivers. You're either in God's quiver or you're in Satan's quiver. You're not laying on the table. You know, you're not on a shelf. You're either in this quiver or you're in this quiver. If you're not in God, you're in Satan's, whether you realize it or not. It's just how cut and dry it is. All right? Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, He has also rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, now listen how he says this. I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Does he sound sincere?
No.
Let's keep going.
She's
Now,
the blame again.
yeah. Now therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me that I may worship the Lord. Why does he want him to return with him? Why does he need him there to worship the Lord? Something, you get where this is going? Something sounds a little bit off. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you for being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned to go away, Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. That's another thing we don't like to hear, right? We don't like correction. We don't like to be told we're wrong. And we don't like to say, hey, such and such is better than you. That is a very big problem in today's society. We think it's a competition. Like, I've got to be better than this person. I've got to be smarter than this person. I've got to da-da-da-da. No. Right here in this room, do we all have different talents? Do we all have different gifts? Does God not need those different talents and different gifts in different ways for different people? I can stand up here and I can teach Sunday school and it might touch somebody. All right? I might have Todd come up here and he might give his testimony and it might touch somebody totally different than a lesson can. Somebody can go down here and sit in Sunday morning service and it touched somebody again, totally different. You get what I'm saying? All right? You might get up, sing a song. And that might touch somebody totally different. Different talents, different gifts. It's not a competition. Because we're all supposed to be representing God in everything that we do. I can stand up here and I can say, y'all, I am not the smartest person in the world. And you're like, we know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't have to have, I don't find value, I guess you would say. I don't find value in a job. We're not supposed to. I don't find value in intellect. Not supposed to. What are we supposed to find value in? In God. But look at our world. How many people feel value from their job? Those are the workaholics. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You see it. All right. How many people find value maybe in a relationship? They always have to be in a relationship. You remember the dating years? There was always like a girl or a guy who they went from boyfriend to boyfriend or girlfriend, and they had to keep having those because they just had to be in a relationship because that's where they feel value. And it's not supposed to be like that. It's not a competition. We should see who we are through God's eyes. That's where our value lies. Because God loved you so much that he gave his only son. Y'all know the verse. I don't have to repeat it. That's where we get our value. Lots of times I think in today's culture, it's popularity. There is a lot of focus on, I'm going to use the word, I don't know if it's really a word, celebrityism. And it's not just music industry or things like that. Like everybody wants a YouTube channel now. Everybody wants to be an influencer. What is it for? If it's for the wrong reason, All right. It says, and also the strength of Israel will not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me now, please, before the elders of the people and before Israel. This is what's wrong. He messed up. He's saying, oh, I messed up. Bless me, da-da-da-da-da. And he's saying, honor me before the people. That was wrong. Because if he messed up, he should have been up there standing in front of the people and being transparent. We messed up. I messed up. I led you wrong. We did this when God told me to do this. He's putting on a show right here. If you pick up on it, he's saying, Samuel, just bless me. Honor me in front of the people so it won't look bad. I'm going to put this on today's terms too. How many times do we have politicians that come out, leaders that come out and say, I messed up. I'm sorry. Have y'all ever seen it? If so, not many times. What do they do? They want to cover it up. Mm-hmm. Lots of times they use the media to do that, to spin different things, to make them look good or whatnot. It's not what what God wants. I've said this before, as a parent, I would love to be a perfect parent. I would love to stand up here in front of you and tell you, y'all, I got it right. I done it right. I want to do it right, but I'm human and I fail. But the thing is, my kids don't need to see a perfect mother. They need to see an imperfect mother in need of a merciful God. Because what's going to happen in their life? Are they going to have it perfect? No. They need to see me crying out to God. They need to see when I mess up, I can actually stand up and say, hey, forgive me. I messed up. That's what should have happened right here. If he was still humble as he was in the beginning, that's what would have happened. All right, so Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Then Samuel said, bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him cautiously, and Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. Why does there need to be any more killing? I'm putting it on, movie terms here. There doesn't need to be any more killing. We're done with the battle. But Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. So, if you take both of the accounts, the king Saul stepped in and did something that he wasn't supposed to do. That wasn't his position. And what he was supposed to do and what he was supposed to do in his position, Samuel had to step in and do because he couldn't do to get the Lord's will done. All right, let me give you one more or two more. And then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to the house of Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. He didn't go back and see him anymore. There was no need to, because there was already a new king that was coming. Samuel's focus is going to be on this next king. All right? So, does that make sense? I know, like, I'm kind of hopping, and I hate hopping, chapters or whatnot, but I know y'all don't want to hear about all the battles of the Philistines. There's a bunch of them in there.
I have a question. So
Yep.
even though Samuel went and killed King Agag, some of those Amalekites, right? If I remember correctly, lived.
Yes.
So then that's where Haman comes in.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yes. They did not utterly destroy them that day. You're going to hear the term Amalekites a few more times through the Old Testament. And then, when we get into the story of Esther, which is a pretty good while after this, because when you get into the book of Esther, it's going to maybe be a little bit, maybe about chapter 6 or 7 of Daniel and Esther overlap. Daniel 1 is about 605 BC. David's going to reign about 1000 BC. So there's a couple hundred years in there. So they're still going to be alive during that time, the Amalekites. Anything else?
What was the reason for killing all the animals? I mean, I understand the people because they carry stuff on. What's the animal? Why kill all the animals?
I would venture to say that it was because he did not want them intermixing into the flocks that would become the burnt offerings. This is a foreign people, foreign flocks or whatever. There is a such thing in that area as Jacob's sheep. That's what they would breed for specific offerings or whatnot. So I would just venture to say they didn't want any of the people to have any of the spoils of an evil people, just to go ahead and destroy everything. They just didn't want the flocks intermixing and anything like that.
Don't taint any bloodline.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it was too, what God said, He wanted complete obedience too.
Yeah.
I think that was,
Yeah.
whether they intermingled or not, I think He just wanted them to obey completely what He said.
Yeah.
Whether they it was a bad thing, intermingle or not.
Because wouldn't it be hard, even as a warrior, to go into a town and your job is you've got to wipe out everybody, even the little ones? That would be the hard thing. Because you would question it. Even on a human perspective, even as evil as people are, you would question that. But God's telling you to do that. And they just didn't see the reason then. We see it now, but not then. Okay, that's all I got.